Welcome on in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. Streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app, as well as streaming live on YouTube. The Fan KLGN is where you can tune in to find our shows and watch us if you're not just content to listen to us for some reason.
Yeah, lots of ways to interact with the show. Yeah, over the air, online, mobile app, on podcast, and of course on YouTube. So
yeah,
yes,
on YouTube as well. Lots to go over for today's show. You know, Eric, during yesterday's show, I made an offhand comment, half joke, half serious, saying that somebody would commit to the Aggies, some recruit transfer would commit at 6:01.
Right as we get off the air.
You know what time a report came out, a post saying that somebody had verbally committed to the Aggies? What time, roughly, almost exactly?
6:01?
6:02.
Oh, 6:02.
6:02.
It was close.
I was off by a minute. So, so there's, and that wasn't just two, because Ace Reiser, I actually need to double check that's how he actually pronounces his last name. But he committed during our show.
Yeah, that happened while we were on the air.
Yeah, during the show. And then at 6:02, I believe that was when Colin Mulholland was reported to have verbally committed to the Aggies. And then later in the evening, Bron Roberts, who's actually the teammate of another Aggie commit, Sean Feltz. So 3 commits last evening for the Aggies. We had a chance to talk about Ace Reiser. We'll probably rehash a little bit of that in this show, but we'll focus on a little bit more on the 2 commits that we didn't get to talk about yesterday, since they committed after we signed off the air. And then also talk a little bit about how it seems like Ben Jacobson is going a little bit harder on the JUCO recruiting trail, more so than the Aggies have really done in years. In fact, I think Sean Feltz was the first JUCO recruit signed with the Aggies since 2023. And now there's been 3 of them in one offseason. So kind of interesting. We'll see how fans feel about that. I know there's a lot of people clamoring for Power 4 transfers or high major transfers. But going to the JUCO All-Stars, getting a JUCO All-American, the number 9, and then Sean Feltz is the number 19 JUCO recruit. I don't know where Bron Roberts, if he ranked particularly well. He came off the bench. But let's take this text from 2444, and we'll kind of bake that into how we analyze all of these recruits. 2444 on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line asking, what letter grade would you give to each of the 3 commitments to the men's basketball team from yesterday?
Letter grade. Well,
yeah. So let's start with Ace Reiser. Let's go in chronological order.
Sure. Ace, I'd probably give that a B. Just that it's junior college player. Did well for his institution. Good handles, scoring. Surprising high number of rebounds per game for someone who's only 6 feet tall. So I like that it shows that he's got a high motor and he goes after things. But he does come from a junior college, so and he's only 6 feet tall. So there's a few strikes against him for me. So I'd probably give him a B. There's some aspects of his game that I like, but as I've mentioned, there's some concerns I have too.
Yeah, and I think I'd be in the similar range. You're bringing him in to essentially be your backup point guard. You tend not to see a translation like he's not going to walk in and score 15 points per game for the Aggies this upcoming season. He's likely going to be maxing out at 6 or 7. I think especially with some of the other players they're bringing in and the kinds of roles they're going to have, the roles that Will Hornseth, Carson Templin, Solomon Callahan, AJ Bates, and obviously Mason Falslev at the top of the heap and all that. So,
but has the potential to score 15 points.
He does. Like, he'd be that guy that comes off the bench in one game and hits like 5 3-pointers and gets you 15 to 18 points.
Yeah.
So he plays a key role as we're kind of expecting it to be a backup point guard. And I think he'll be good in his role, and he adds tremendous shooting and even a little bit of microwave scoring, where I got to watch some film as opposed to watching like 2 minutes of one of the games. I was able to watch most of the game and I went back to College of Southern Idaho against Snow College because I was also trying to keep an eye on Braun Roberts, who we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, Ace Reiser with it felt like when he scored in the half court, he felt kind of like a running back in some cases, where there's some finesse to his game, but he's also trying to like split double teams, different things like that, just bullying his way, even as a 6 foot $165 guard, trying to bully his way into the paint with mixed success. Sometimes it worked really well. There's another time where he had a turnover. But yeah, I'd say B, maybe B-. I don't think I could, like, even my most optimistic vision of Ace Reiser coming to the Aggies, where he's like the starting point guard, I think even then probably only B+ would be like the highest I'd go. And I lean toward B-, mainly because it's a transfer and it's your backup point guard. There's value. It's important to have that depth, but this isn't a home run. It's a double at best, a single at worst, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm giving him a B, but it wouldn't be much to persuade me into the B- range.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm more of an optimistic type, so I'll lean more in the B instead of over a B-, because I think that there's some things he can do to help the team. You don't have to be big and lengthy, though those things certainly can help.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I looked it up. There were 101 players last year who were listed 6 foot and shorter that averaged 10 points per game. That's like a third of.
That's not bad.
That's a third of the teams in Division I have, and like I think more than a dozen of those were power conference guys.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So I'm not really as concerned about his height. He's going to come in and do what he needs to do, but he's not going to be like this dominant force on the court. And so that's where, it just depends on what your grading scale is. Let's talk about Colin Mulholland, the Chattanooga center. This last year averaged 7.6 points, 3.4 rebounds, 1.7 assists. Shot 44% from the field, though a lot of that was his 3-point shooting percentage, because if you look at his 2-point percentage, he was a hair under 60%. He shot just fine inside the arc. He's also injured a lot, was in and out of the lineup with injuries, and that really impacted him. Like his freshman year, he actually had much better shooting stats, at least from three. He was a hair above 60% on 2-pointers his freshman year, so injuries kind of hurt him a little bit. And actually, the highlight reel that I was able to watch, I only had so much time to watch film, so I settled for watching highlights of Mulholland last night. And they were from his freshman year, and he looked pretty good. He was hitting clutch shots. Most of them were 3-pointers. This is a guy who I think will remind a lot of people of Isaac Johnson, where he is a 3-point shooter. As a center, he's 6'11", 235 pounds. He's going to be one of your tallest guys in the rotation, and he's going to shoot about as many threes as some of the guards. But yeah, he's also interesting. The thing that intrigues me the most, and it's the thing that I really want to dive into, and unfortunately with how many transfers are stacking up, I'm like seeing these new players come in, and I'm realizing that in my order of doing these newcomer breakdowns, I'm like 3 or 4 players away from getting to watch in-depth film on this guy. But
keep getting stacked up. Yeah,
1.7 assists per game as a center. You don't see that very often.
No.
Usually you'll be somewhere under 1 assist, maybe slightly over 1 assist. And for a guy who I think only played 17 minutes a game.
Yeah, he averaged on the season, 17 minutes, about 7.5 points, about 3.5 rebounds, 1.7 assists, half of a block per game.
Yeah,
so every other game he's getting a block.
Yeah.
But a good shooter and good at the free throw line too. So a guy his size, he's an 82% free throw shooter.
Yeah, this is someone who is definitely going to be the stretch 5 who will actually shoot a lot. Because Carson Templin, with him at power forward or center, depending on where he's been playing, he can hit a 3-pointer if he really needs to. Sean Feltz is kind of in a similar way where he late in his senior season began to shoot more of those. Colin Mulholland will rise and fire, and it's why I bring up the comparison to Isaac Johnson. Isaac Johnson, if he was open a little bit, he's like, look, I'm 7 feet tall and I can hit a 3-pointer. I'm just going to shoot it. And I think Colin Mulholland is going to be similar in that sense. And I think if you look at who's going to start at center, I was pretty sure that Sean Feltz was going to start play, it was going to be like that 15-minute per game type starter, the way the Aggies have had, like with Aubin Gadarazzi and Zach Keller and Isaac Johnson actually on that list. But I think Colin Mulholland has a pretty solid chance of taking that role instead, where he's a little bigger. He's listed at 235. Sean Feltz is probably generously listed at 220 pounds. So Mulholland brings in more size, and he's played at the Division I level, provided he's healthy. I really like what he's able to bring. He's also got great passing for a big, which is something that's really helpful in Ben Jacobson's offense. The amount of chances he'll get to make simple but important passes. Will Hornseth stacked assists as a big. He had one of the highest assist percentages, like top 30, I think, assist percentage among players 6'8" or taller last year. And I think Mulholland could end up, in a similar way where he's able to make some plays as a passer in addition to being able to stretch the floor from three. And it's kind of interesting what we're seeing with Utah State, where the three centers they have signed, Bron Roberts, Colin Mulholland, Sean Feltz, all of them are viable three-point shooters.
Yeah, Mulholland, he was 13 of 60 from three this last season. It's only about 27%.
Yeah, but you look at his freshman year, though, and again, I think injuries played a factor in how poorly he shot this past year. But you look at his freshman year, you look at his free throw percentage, I'm not saying he's going to walk out there and shoot 38%, but I think this upcoming year you're likely to see him be capable of shooting league average. Again, that's around 33, 34%.
Yeah, so he does show a propensity to want to shoot. And somebody with that size, it'd be interesting, the pairing of Mulholland and Templin, or Mulholland and Hornseth. Just if they go big, they can still put, one of the 6'10" guy, he can float out, he can set that high screen and then hang out there and be able to hit threes, draw the opposing big man out to try to guard him, and leave a little bit more room for the other big man for Utah State to go to work in the paint.
Yeah, it's interesting because Ben Jacobson has run a 5-out offense. And mind you, Jared Calhoun ran a 5-out offense. Granted, there are a decent number of differences in exactly how they're running this, but Ben Jacobson runs a 5-out offense. He's been running a 5-out offense without 5 shooters on the court, which you can do, but you usually have to have at least 4, and the 5th one you just kind of have to make work. The few times he's had, and I detailed this a little bit in my breakdown of his offense, one of the article I wrote, I think like a month ago now, but I talked about some of the times where he did have a stretch 5, like an actual stretch 5 who could hit 3-pointers. And those are some of his better offenses that he's had. He's now stacking shooting centers. And like Will Hornseth, of anyone in the front court, he's probably the worst 3-point shooter. He shot 4 of 9 last year, which, low volume, and that's something that's really easy to, well, if you manage to hit a few of them, it looks good, because I think technically his percentage is like 44%, whatever 4 out of 9 is. But what happens if he's able to up that to shooting, 1 3-pointer a game, and he makes 14 or 15 of them? That'd be shooting 50%, but like say he I guess he'd make like 9 or 10 of them. Like be able to take a 3-pointer every game and make one every other game. If he's able to add that, suddenly if Will Hornseth becomes this close to viable 3-point shooter, and you look at some of the other recruits they're bringing in, they'll basically never have a lineup on the court where you don't have 5 players that are all viable 3-point shooters. And there will be several who are dangerous 3-point shooters. Solomon Callahan, Mason Falslev, those two in particular, Ace Reiser. Like, you've got 3 guys who are going to be on around shooting 40+% from 3. Mm-hmm. And a bunch of guys who are capable of shooting at or slightly above a NCAA average in 3-point. That's something that I think is going to be really interesting this season, is that the Aggies are probably going to be the best 3-point shooting team in the conference, the way these recruits and lineups are starting to shake out when you see the players that Jacobson is bringing in. So as far as a letter grade, like I think with Ace Riser, it was B minus if you're pessimistic, but I'd probably lean more towards a B. With Mulholland, I'd say B minus just because, again, at his highest, he's a guy that's playing like 21, 22 minutes. You're still going to lean more into Will Hornseth and Carson Tempen. Like, those are your two best players. And so, again, and that letter grade, again, isn't about the quality of Mulholland as a player. It's about the player you're bringing into a particular role.
Yeah.
You're bringing in a solid player to a reserve role or a low minutes role. Good recruit, but understand the potential impact he's going to have based on the role you're recruiting him into.
Ace Ricer was on a team that knew how to win games, and he was a part of helping them win games. Mulholland was on a team that struggled to win games. They were, 13-19 this season in Chattanooga. They lost in the first round to the Citadel. Had a chance to tie the game or have a game-winning shot. They kind of fumbled the ball, and Citadel was able to get it and score the go-ahead points and advance. Mulholland had games this season where he was a walking double-double. And if you can get a walking double-double on your team, great, awesome. But he also has games where he scores 4 or 5 points and he only pulls down a couple of rebounds. And yes, as we mentioned, he had some injuries kind of here and there, but he still played in a good number of games. So I like his potential. I like the idea of Mulholland, but you have a 6'10" guy who can stretch the floor. But what he's actually been able to produce in the team he's been a part of, not as exciting. So I'm with you. I'd put him at a B minus. Maybe even a C plus if he can stay healthy and continue to refine his game. And he still has time. He's still fairly young. But if he can do those things and become more consistent, then this could be a really awesome pickup for Coach Jacobson. But right now, based on what he's done, freshman season better than his sophomore season. So if he can get back to kind of that form, then this will be a good pickup. But for right now, I'm in the B minus territory for Mulholland.
8968. Now, this was sent in, I believe, when we were still talking about Riser and debating whether or not B minus. But 8968 saying, when Utah State has C minus income, a B minus isn't too bad. So, which I think is true.
Yeah.
And then 1181 sending in their thoughts, their letter grades for all of these players. Ace Riser, a C. Mulholland, Big Maple, a C plus. And then I believe it's supposed to be Braun Roberts. It says Johnson, but that says C. So I believe.
Yeah.
So let's get into a Braun Roberts.
1181, just usually about a letter grade below where we're
just
at.
a little bit more pessimistic, which I can understand. Like, none of these players are going to, like, they're not home run recruits. They
don't have P4 experience.
They're not even triples, or at best they're a double if you're comparing it to hits in baseball. These are players that you're bringing in to fill out your bench or be fringe starters. Like, these are not like when Aggies are asking for a number 2 type scorer. None of these guys is going to be that. I'd expect 1 or 2 of these recruits that they brought in to probably not be in the rotation. There's a decent likelihood that 1 or 2 of these guys doesn't see the rotation. I can tell you who I suspect that is. But that's like, these are guys that are in the middle to back end of your rotation. Ace Riser are going to be that backup point guard likely, so he'll be a little bit closer to the front, but still he's at best your 6th or 7th man. Mulholland, maybe your 5th starter, the guy who starts at center. So like, you got to keep that in context of who these guys are going to be. But even with that understood, I like them as prospects, and I especially like them for the role they're going to play. Ben Jacobson didn't bring them in to be stars. So you can view them in that sense and say, hey, yeah, for the type of recruit they are, for the type of role that you're fitting them into, I like Colin Mulholland and his ability to have that impact. Basically, Zach Keller plus, or similar to what Isaac Johnson was.
Yeah.
Ace Riser, he can be something akin to Colby King in some respects.
Yeah,
different archetype.
He'll have a role. It's not a starring role.
Yeah.
but it's a role, and you need role players.
Yeah.
You need players who are willing to play a very specific role.
Yeah, you need guys to star in their roles. And so I think that,
Yes.
that's what these guys are able to do.
Yes, I agree. So let's talk about the third one, which came a little bit later in the evening, but another big man for Utah State, Bron Roberts, another Snow College transfer from the junior college ranks. And again, another player from the state of Utah, not just from Snow College, but played his high school ball at Timpanogos, 7 feet tall, 7-foot wingspan, and somebody who can stretch the floor. He's another guy who can step out and hit a three, but needs a little bit more meat on those bones. 7 feet tall, but only 220 pounds.
Yeah. And yes, and I think he also was injured at the tail end of last season. He only played 16 games, played a little bit in a game in February, and then that was his last game. And Snow College was going to the JUCO, national tournament, so he was missing some time late in the season. But coming off the bench in most games, I think he might have started a game or two, but he was usually coming off the bench behind Sean Feltz. Would play with Sean Feltz in some cases, though. Where it was interesting, where you had two, a 6'11" and a 7-foot guy out there at the same time, and we're generally able to make it work. But yeah, so he's coming into his sophomore year. Sean Feltz is coming into his junior year, so there's more experience from Feltz, more experience from Mulholland, who's also going into his junior year. So I would expect Bron Roberts to probably be on the outside looking in as far as the front court rotation. Just he needs a little bit more experience, needs to put a little bit more weight on. And I like him as a prospect. I think he's a more athletic version of Sean Feltz and has a little bit more. He's a little bit further along in his development as a three-point shooter, where Feltz kind of just barely discovered that the back end of his sophomore season at Snow College. Bron Roberts is doing that from the very beginning, walking in the door as a freshman. I'm a 7-footer who can shoot it. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that he already has, and he's developed. He's got a tad more length. I mean, he's listed 1 inch taller and a 1 inch longer wingspan than Feltz. So we'll see what kind of prospect he can develop into, but I think he might end up sitting on the bench for the most part this next year, behind Mulholland, behind Feltz. But it's early; those are assumptions. But again, I do like him as a prospect. Now, if I'm given a letter grade, it's probably C+, because again, you're pulling in a guy who I think is going to sit on the bench most of the year, so not going to get overly positive about it.
I'm with you. I'm in the C category here. You get a 7-footer, and there aren't a lot of 7-footers walking around. But he is a prospect. He's a project. So he's somebody that you can stash on the bench, let him gain more weight, gain more strength, learn what it means to compete at this level. So this is a future project. But you get to secure him now and provide an opportunity for him to build. So I would give, Reiser, I gave him a B, Mulholland, a C, a B-, and then Roberts, a C. So as they came on across the board last night, they kind of were in descending letter grades for me. But the roster's not quite finished, Jason. Let's take a timeout and see what else needs to be done for this roster. 3 signees? I mean, that looks like the roster's pretty close to being done, but they're loading up on certain positions. Are there any others that still need to be addressed? And we can talk about that on the other side of this timeout here on the Full Court Press.
Welcome back in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen. I almost forgot my own name for a second there.
Yes, we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
We forgot a little hello, my name is stickers.
I've been meaning to put like names like on the video stream, the like one, name over me that says Jason, one over you that says Eric, and make it so like we can swap, because sometimes you're in this chair and I'm in that chair.
Yeah.
And we could swap them just to help people out. But yeah, one thing kind of on that 2305 asking if we can put a visual on YouTube of what the roster looks like. And unfortunately, I don't have it set up really easily where I can quickly do that to like visualize what the roster looks like. But I can point you in the direction of a great resource if I can toot my own horn a little bit on Cache Valley Daily. And 2305, if you want me to, I can send you a link over text if you'd like, if you want a quick link to that. But my transfer portal breakdown includes the current roster, including all of the commits. It'll show you everyone, names in alphabetical orders, their height, position, and class. So it kind of gives you a quick visualization. It doesn't have stats, although I also have a Google Sheet, but that covers the entire Pac-12, and that provides a little bit more. So there are a couple different resources that I have, but one of them is on Cache Valley Daily.
And we can have I think in future shows here, we're going to have some interesting discussions and debates about what does the lineup look like? Who's going to play point guard? Who's going to play on the wing? Who's going to be the backup center? So that's forthcoming, though. We do have a comment that was dropped in on the YouTube chat from Braden Clark 3120. It says USU will run a lineup of AJ Bates, Mason Falslev, Kingston Tosi, Carson Templin, and Colin Mulholland, which would be one of the longer lineups the Aggies have ever had.
Yeah, they've
not, definitely possibility of a lineup for Utah State.
Yeah, they've not had lineups that long in a while. Not since some of the later like Craig Smith, Ryan, and some of the Ryan Odom days. More, I think, late Craig Smith when they were running like Justin Bean at power forward and Mish Keta and like Diogo Brito, where you're having like 6'5", 6'7" guys on the wing, and then obviously 7-foot Nemish Keta and he had like a 7'4" wingspan. So yeah, it'll, if you have Kingston Tosi at the 3, and this is something where you're looking at the players. So right now, if you're looking at point guard, it's AJ Bates, Ace Reiser, Jax Allen.
Bates is 6'3".
Yeah, he's 6'3".
Reiser is 6 foot. Jax Allen is 6'5".
Yeah.
So Jax Allen has a lot of interesting potential, but because he's
probably good. Yeah.
He did some training with Snow Canyon basketball, but he didn't play.
Yeah, but
he hasn't really done anything since his mission.
Yeah, he's probably going to be on the tail end of the roster, red shirt potential, or I don't know. We may not have red shirts anymore. We went into that yesterday.
Yeah,
but then like at shooting guard, you have in defining shooting guard and small forward can be a little tricky at this point, but you have Mason Falslev, Solomon Callahan, Braden Bowe, although Braden Bowe will probably more be considered a small forward, being 6'5" and more wing oriented. And then Kingston Tosi is a small forward, power forward, but like that's pretty much it for small forward and power forward, like the small forward and then like a wing power forward type.
Jordan Boyd wouldn't be in that mix?
Oh, yeah. Jordan Boyd would probably be more toward maybe shooting guard, small forward. But again, he's also probably going to redshirt or not be much in the rotation. Like, if I'm looking at guys that I expect to be in the rotation, there are 2 guys that I feel like are good at playing small forward as opposed to just being the third guard out there. Like Mason Falslev will probably end up playing small forward in a lot of these lineups. He'll basically be the third guard. Like, so you have AJ Bates, Solomon Callahan, and Mason Falslev. Falslev would basically be the small forward in that lineup. But for a starting lineup, where I think if you want to go bigger, like you would go with Braden Bowe or Kingston Tosi. And it's interesting the way that, again, we have only 2 spots left for recruiting. And I'm going to assume that kind of one of those almost has to be filled by a wing type player. One who is going to compete for the rotation, maybe not the starting lineup, but for the rotation. But based on the way they're recruiting, it seems pretty likely that barring a surprise and a potential high-level recruit or like a high major transfer that we usually assume are always going to be fighting for one of those starting spots, it's looking like Braden Bowe and Kingston Tosi are going to be playing pretty big roles on the wing as redshirt freshmen. Ben Jacobson appears to be, and again, I have to say appears because there's still room for more recruits, but he appears to be putting a lot of trust in these 2 redshirt freshmen that he expects them to be good. And I don't think that trust is misplaced, by the way, when I say that. I mainly acknowledge it as a risk. But with the talent they have, I think leaning into the type of players they are, like, that's a good thing. There's some risk to it. But I think we're really seeing the trust that Jacobson is putting in these 2 redshirt freshmen, Bo and Tosi.
Yeah, and then I think you're right that still in these last 2 spots, it's a wing player that still needs to be in the mix because they're taken care of with power forward and center. Like, there's good depth there.
Yeah, they have.
I think you've got some good
depth.
players and you got some good depth there. I think you're set on big guys. Certainly, if you find one that still helps you be better as a team, well, you sign them. You always take it. If there's always a player who's better, you'll sign them. And if you've got a lot of that same position, well, then you got a lot of that position, and there's good. You just
figure it out later.
Yeah, but if you look at like who has signed right now, and as you mentioned, two spots that are available for this team, they need more at that wing position. Someone who I talked about this the other night. The emphasis in the final hours of filling out this roster really should be on a player between the size of 6'6" and 6'8", who's a wing player, not a power forward. I think you've got that, but a wing player, an additional wing player to those that you have. And granted, if you find a great power forward who can do a couple of who's versatile, you'll take him too. But that's something where they could still use some more length at that position to really have a versatile lineup that can face just about any opponent that they will go through in the new Pac-12.
I'll be honest, so that finding players that meet those criteria, like 6'6" to 6'8" small forwards at the college level, I mean, they may look like trees, but they don't grow on them. Like they're hard to find. Like Utah State's, and mind Utah State's had players like that. You know, Sean Bairstow, Jalen Moore, those players have been out there. But usually, if you're finding a guy that's Shulga was 6'4".
Is that all he was? I thought he was a little bigger than that.
Yeah, like you're more likely to find and more likely to recruit a guy who's like Max Shulga, Ian Martinez, MJ Collins, guys who are in the 6'4", 6'5" range. And I think that's more likely what you're going to see Ben Jacobson bring in, partly because if you are a 6'7" power, small forward, you're getting paid. And Ben Jacobson's probably reaching the end of his wallet here with all these recruits. I don't think any of the guys he's brought in
I think some of the ones recently
they've probably not been that expensive
on the lower end of what you can.
But still, you're paying a lot of money to some of these guys, and so you might have enough NIL for like maybe one more, recruit where you can pay him 6 figures potentially, but how much beyond that? So you might be able to get someone like that, but a player that you're describing, while I agree that is a player that they should be going after and be extremely helpful, I'm skeptical they'll be able to find that kind of player. But again, I recognize it wouldn't be impossible.
Yeah, I mean 6'5" would be fine too.
Yeah,
because as of right now, you got one 6'5" guy, but he's a point guard, and he's probably going to redshirt, and that's Jax Allen. Brayton Bowe, you're probably going to see some out of him, but he's a redshirt player, so he'll be young.
Yeah, I think he's got the length and the skill set to play small forward. I think that would fit incredibly well for him. He could play shooting guard, but when you have Mason Falsa, Solomon Callahan, a bunch of other guys, like that shooting guard position is kind of filled, so bump him a little bit down the lineup, and he's got the length to play that spot.
Yeah, so we'll just call it a small forward position, wing player. You really only have 2 guys that are probably going to play. Brayton Bowe and Kingston Tosi. Yeah. So that's just where they need more depth at that position. And it gives you more versatility, too, with your opponents.
Yeah. 1818 saying Kenner Davis is still out there. Hopefully he would be interested in playing with Coach Jacobson. He has a relationship with him since Davis played in the MVC. Is that where Kenner Davis came from?
Kenner Davis.
Or is it
this the guy from BYU?
Yeah, he played at BYU.
Who had the DUI thing, and they're like, actually, we don't have evidence that you had a DUI.
Oh, was that him? He played at Southern Illinois. couple of years in the Missouri Valley, averaged 16 points. Yeah, Southern Illinois. And then, last year played 32 games, started 32 games. Didn't shoot particularly well. Kind of struggled a little bit in the Big 12, but he fits a lot of that. Where again, 6'6", 200+ pounds, versatile, can score inside and out. So that's the kind of player you'd like to see. But we'll see if he wants to play with Coach Jacobson.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a really nice piece to help out.
So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll begin shifting away from talking Utah State basketball, though. If you have any thoughts, still send them in via the text line. Some interesting news about bowl tie-ins with the Pac-12, how things are going to work. And Eric, you've read a little bit about this. I've seen a couple of things, haven't read as much, but I still have seen some things, so I'm not going to this completely blind here, but kind of interesting how bowl tie-ins are going to work for the Pac-12, and particularly with Utah State next year. So we'll get to that next here on the Full Court Press. Bike night is back at Young Power Sports Logan. It's tonight, Eric. Bike night is tonight.
Ooh, conditions look nice.
Yeah, they are. Harley Hooligan stunt show, live music, food, and prizes. Don't miss it. 6 to 8 p.m. tonight. All bikes are welcome, so make sure to check them out. Young Power Sports Logan. And they also sponsor our text line, 435-339-0321. I forgot, this is a topic we're going to talk about Pac-12 bowl tie-ins, but something I realized I wanted to ask this question because we've been talking about, getting players from high majors or different things like that. Mentioned, leaning into JUCO recruiting. Does it worry you any moving into JUCO? Because I know I'm maybe delving into apples and oranges territory when I bring this up here. But I remember Blake Anderson, this is football, so we're maybe talking apples and oranges here, but he leaned pretty heavily into JUCO, and he had some pretty big, he articulated a lot of reasons for that. And he said, with the transfer portal, like there are a lot of good JUCO players that are getting overlooked, and I've heard that narrative about basketball as well.
Yeah.
But with Blake Anderson,
Bronco Mendenhall is doing a similar thing.
Yeah, well, he's not done as much with
not so much
with
JUCO, but like lower division, like lower level football, and bringing him up to the Division I, the FBS level. He's been doing that.
Yeah, but like with Blake, like most of his JUCO recruits didn't work out. A couple of them did, but I think one or two running backs. I think Kean Sloan was from the JUCO, but like so many just ended up riding the pine the entire season. And it's like, and I get like with where Ben Jacobson is recruiting these, JUCO players, the roles he's recruiting them into, presumably, like you're not leaning on these guys to be your stars, but still these are positions that, Jared Calhoun, Danny Sprinkle, like he was filling those with Division I players, maybe from low major conferences. And now Danny Sprinkle, I think, did bring in a Division II player, Javon Jackson, but where you're going to have half your bench maybe taken up with JUCO players, is there any concern there with leaning into that realm of recruiting a little bit more?
A little bit. I just worry that the level of competition, the physical bodies that they compete against or even practice against are going to be a little bit different. But that being said, I think that players at JUCO levels, like these are guys like Brayton Bowe and Kingston Tosi, I think are good examples. They spent the last year on the bench for Utah State. Ace Reiser, Sean Feltz, they spent a year playing meaningful basketball.
High-level JUCO basketball,
right.
too. They were like top 5 teams in the country.
Like they knew how to win games in tight situations, and the pressure to win is still real. Granted, it's not as big of an arena and not as many bright lights or as many TV cameras when you're doing it, but being able to win games, that's important. So my thought to this is getting 3 players out of junior college is that Ben Jacobson is trying to manage his roster. He's also trying to manage his budget and putting his dollars where he feels will give him the most bang for his buck, but also trying to not buy low, sell high, but essentially find some bargains. Guys who were at good programs, who got playing time, who know how to win, but did not play at the Division I level, and bring them in, expose them to this atmosphere and these opportunities. They have that momentum with them. Can that carry over into this level? Lots of case studies where that does work, where those guys maybe got overlooked originally in recruiting. They find a home at junior college. They get on the court. They get on the field. They get a chance to improve and showcase their abilities. And then they are ready for Division I. And they can come in and contribute. So I'm not necessarily concerned to see 3 players from junior college. I see some of them as future projects for Utah State. But if the last 2 positions on this roster also come from junior college,
then it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, then my level of concern continues to rise.
Yeah, I think for me it just comes down to like, do you trust Ben Jacobson to be able to scout the kind of talent that he needs for the Pac-12 level? And that is a legitimate question to ask because this is someone who's never coached at the Pac-12 level. Like he's been in the Missouri Valley, Northern Iowa. He knows the kind of players that work there. Like, this is something that happened with Jared Calhoun. It's something that happened, if we go back to football, with Blake Anderson. He's like, oh, he didn't know what kind of player worked in the Mountain West. He had to learn. Bronco Mendenhall has had to learn that with being at New Mexico. Well, I guess relearn, because he was in the Mountain West with BYU. Then he had to relearn what it was like coming back in the transfer portal era. Years after he'd spent some time in the ACC and while the Mountain West was changing. But, like, do you trust Ben Jacobson to be able to scout the kind of players that are at the JUCO level? Because there are guys that put up a ton of stats at junior college levels, at the Division II level, that are just not viable at the Division I level for any number of reasons. It's the same kind of thing that you run into in the transition from college to the NBA. There are players who work spectacularly at the college level, but for whatever reason, a lot of times it's side speed, athleticism, that kind of stuff. Like, you make it work at college, but you can't make it work at the NBA. And there are similar aspects to it where it's like, if just because you put up a ton of stats, because you see some fans will say, hey, there's this Division II kid, there's this JUCO guy, you can get him at a discount. He's averaging 25 points per game at this Division II school. And it's like, all right, but does he have the skills that translate to Division I basketball? Spectacular, lower division player. Do they have the skills that translate at the Division I level? Now, I did a breakdown of Sean Feltz, and I believe that he has skills that translate to the Division I level. I have some concerns about his bulk. That is something that he got away with in the junior college level, because all the other centers he's going up against are also 210 pounds. The ones he goes up against in Division I, especially upper mid-major, Pac-12, they're going to be 240 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a little bit harder for him on both sides of the ball. So have they brought in guys who are going to be able to develop and or already have the skills to make it work at the Division I level? That's the question, and it's not one that I can answer. I'm not good enough a scout to be able to answer those. And we've also, it's just time will tell, but do you trust Ben Jacobson to make those proper scouting decisions, that he has found junior college players that can play Pac-12 basketball? Because they're out there. They're JUCO players who are ready to make that jump right away. Has Ben Jacobson found them? That's a question we'll need to find out.
Yeah, and he has to manage his budget. He has to manage his finances.
Got to be balling on a budget.
Yep.
So let's take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the first hour here on the Full Court Press.
air fresheners, shop towels, sea foam, chemical guys, car wash and detailing kits. It's all available.
A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, all available. We've had some rain and even a little bit of snow. We've got a little bit more coming, so it can mess up your car and how it looks. So you can get the details and how to detail your car at Napa Auto Parts. Got various different locations, several of them locally owned between Preston and Providence.
So we can get to, I think, Pac-12 bowl tie-ins, either second hour, who knows, we may punt it. We've got a lot of topics for the second hour, but we've been meaning to get to this for a couple of days. But a longtime Skyview boys basketball head coach, Kirk Hillyard, is reportedly stepping down. John Newbold reporting that a couple of days ago. I can't remember. He's like, just as long as I've been around the Valley, he's been coaching basketball, and even way before I was in the Valley.
Yeah, long-time coach, very successful coach, multiple state championships, won a state championship with Jalen Moore, won a state championship with Mason Falslev, and a few other guys that were in there. He's been a part of a great, rich basketball tradition in the northern end of Cache Valley, and routinely develops high-quality teams and produces guys that go on to play next level. He's got a former player that just went to Utah Tech, and now he's transferred up to Utah Valley. So he's got a lot of guys who play next level and does a great job of coaching them and preparing them and helping them understand what they need to do to approach the game properly. And there's been some years where maybe a little bit rough in December when things get started, but by the time region play gets going, but you never want to. You don't want to play Skyview if you think that they're down, because it doesn't take long before they're back at it and one of the top teams in the region.
The thing that always stuck out to me when I watched a Kirk Hillyard coach team was how disciplined they were, how well they worked as a team. Because that's something that you don't really see. It can be a little bit more rare at the high school level, where some kids haven't been playing basketball that long. They haven't been playing together as a team that long in a lot of cases. But Kirk Hillyard had his guys playing team basketball, unselfish basketball, disciplined defense, disciplined offense, rebounding incredibly well. Like, just, whether or not he had like the uber talented players, which sometimes he did.
Yes.
He did have those guys.
He was able to find them and improve them.
Yeah. So like, he was able to develop those kind of players, but even if he didn't, his teams were still fundamentally sound and good and skilled. And so when he had these super talented players, well, that's when you're winning state championships. So even if you don't have super talented players, he's still getting, good playoff runs, still up there, fighting for a region title. Just, I love watching his teams because they could play basketball. They knew how to play basketball, and it's something I'll miss now that we're not going to see it in the Valley anymore.
Yeah, it's too bad seeing him step down. See who fills those very, very big shoes for the Skyview Bobcats.
I do not envy the next man up for Skyview. That's going to do it for us here in the first hour. Coming up next, Utah Mammoth playoff game tonight. Jersey swap, something fun they did as well. Don't go away. Welcome on back in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Streaming on YouTube as well. The Fan KLGN is where you can head over to find video streams of us, and on the channel as well. I've been trying to somewhat consistently clip up portions of the stream. It kind of easier to digest, 5 or 10 minute segments as opposed to here's a 2-hour podcast for you to listen to or watch.
Or if you don't want to consume 2 hours at a time, we got it on our regular podcast feed at 1 hour per episode for the 4 o'clock hour, the 5 o'clock hour, which can be found on our website, on our mobile app, or wherever you subscribe to podcasts. Just look for the Full Court Press. My name, Jason's name, because there are other podcasts out there that have used our same name. Of a podcast, of our show. It happens.
It's
a common phrase.
There's like 2 or 3 of them. So
yeah, when we started it, there were no podcasts.
Yeah,
and so there were a few other shows that I was aware of when we started it, but not many.
Yeah, not many. We'll see. Are we ever going to rebrand?
At this point, probably not.
Probably not. We're
been doing it long enough.
We're too far into this.
Yes, got to keep it going.
2114. Kind of taking us back to last hour for a second here. We were talking Utah State basketball. We talked the recent recruits that they got, Ace Reiser, Colin Mulholland, Braun Roberts, all of them verbally committing. Ace Reiser signed today. They officially announced that one today. The other two are verbal commits thus far. We talked about them, gave like letter grades, like how good of a recruit do we think these players are. So you can go back. The first hour will be published in a little bit here. I'm not like Eric, I can't get it published quickly, but if you're on YouTube, you can just rewind if you really want to. That's the fun thing about that live stream. But 2114 on our Young Power Sports of Logan text line saying, I saw somewhere that Braun Roberts was injured and may be out next year with injury recovery. Gives him a year to learn the system. And I'd seen something to that effect as well. And again, his last game of the year was in February. I don't know the severity of an injury, but like if you are getting a guy who's injured, that's someone, hey, you can basically redshirt a guy. Although again, redshirts may not be a thing depending on what happens this summer with the potential 5-and-5 rule, but still give him a year to learn the system. Braun Roberts is someone who needs to put on a little weight as well. Although sometimes if you're injured, it can be hard to put on weight.
Yeah, so looking at his
or hard to put on the good weight, I should say.
This is according to his own Instagram. He tore his ACL.
Oh, well, that's...
So, yeah, he's going to be out for a bit.
Yeah, and that probably would happen in February. Yep. So only a couple months removed from having done his ACL.
He's also somebody who served a mission, so he is a little bit older. Served a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Spain. And also has had a wrist injury before. Yeah,
the wrist injury he was in and out during the season because of that wrist injury. And then I guess it was the ACL that finished his season in February.
Yeah.
So, yeah, looking like an injury redshirt year for him.
Stashing a player, get him up here. We could do injury recovery, have better facilities, better access to trainers than what he had at Snow College.
Yeah.
But then be around a program that he could be a part of in the future.
Learn the system. So stash a 7-footer.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right. Who can stretch the floor.
Yeah. So pretty solid prospect, but we'll be out for a little bit.
Because you're building your team now, but also trying to get prospects for your future.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, I think with bringing a lot of these guys, I swear half the roster and half the players that Ben Jacobson has brought in were sophomores last year. Solomon Callahan was a sophomore last year. So was Sean Feltz. So was Will Hornseth. So was Colin Mulholland. You brought in 2 guys who were freshmen last year, Ace Reiser and Braun Roberts. AJ Bates was a sophomore last year. So this is a relatively young roster. Now, a lot of these guys are like 2-year players, sometimes 2-year starters, or at the very least 1-year starters. But this is a team that I think Ben Jacobson is assembling to try and, obviously be good this year. He's not punting on this year. I mean, it's Carson Templin and Mason Falslev's senior year. You're not punting on this year by just developing for the year after that. But if it's the kind of team that he can keep around, then you don't have to take a step back when you lose Mason Falslev to graduation, because that's something you're inevitably going to have to face. So, like, get a team that is capable of winning games this year, but make sure that you're ready for the year after that and have a roster. Again, there's a bunch of ifs because of the transfer portal, but he's bringing in a bunch of guys who have ties around here. Like, Sean Feltz, like he said he went to Snow College because he wanted to stay somewhere in state. Bron Roberts staying, in state with Snow College. Ace Reiser, obviously going to College of Southern Idaho. He's another guy from in state. It's like you're bringing a lot of guys who are pretty likely to stick around. Will Hornseth, obviously very connected to Ben Jacobson, fairly likely to stay around. So you're bringing in a lot of guys who have ties to the state or to the coach, and that's something that I think could help build toward the year, next year. Although we'll have to wait and see on that exactly.
Yeah, and I think Ben Jacobson deserves a lot of mad props for that. Because we've had coaches, over the last, rotating cycle of coaches coming through who bring players in, but it seems like fewer and fewer players with ties to the state is what these rosters are looking like. And Ben Jacobson is like totally pivoting back. Now, just because they're from the state doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be great or that they'll stay. But it certainly seems more likely that you're going to get a little bit more out of them with the local ties and connect to the local community at a deeper level. But certainly at the end of the day, fans will come if it's a good basketball product. If they all came from New Hampshire, as long as they played well and won games, I don't think fans are really going to care. But keeping them here, keeping them invested in the team and the community longer term, your odds are greater if they do come from the state or have ties to that coach. So I like the moves. I still holding out to see what happens with these final two roster spots that are available to really give my final assessment on this roster. But I certainly applaud what Ben Jacobson's trying to do in building his roster.
Let me try and make you give a final assessment. I missed this text from 1818 earlier, mainly because they sent a follow-up text, and so I managed to skip it. But 1818 saying, let's say USU's win total is set at 22 games next season. Are you taking the over or under at this moment?
That's a good number. So we have no idea what the non-conference schedule is going to look like yet. I'm going to take the over. You still have Mason. You still have Carson. You've got some talented players who know how to win. So I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I think it would be a pretty disappointing season if you hit the under.
Yeah,
there are aspects that
used to be the benchmark of a success, in air quotes, a successful season is 20 wins, but you still need to get a little bit beyond that.
Yeah, the standard is different. Like San Diego State fans are using terms like failure, like complete failure, for teams that have still been winning 20 games. And Utah State is beginning to reach that realm where like 20 wins is bare minimum. You better get to that.
Yes.
And probably better, and make sure you're contending for the Mountain West title. So I'd probably lean toward the over. There's some questions I think still need to be answered with this roster and with this rotation, particularly at the wing, or just do Braden Bowe and Kingston Tosi fill in the concerns that we're kind of looking at with the wing? Because if those players are starting caliber guys, then you don't have any concerns on the wing. So that's something that we just kind of get things figured out. Once we get into the summer, maybe have a chance. We'll see if Ben Jacobson does any open practices. I'll probably prod the media relations people, be like, can we do that again this offseason?
Yeah. Don't know what the plans are in the summer, how he normally conducts things if he changes it. He's got better facilities here where he can do that.
Yeah.
Because where he was before, he didn't have a facility like the Estes. They had to go down to the local rec center or try to schedule time in their basketball arena to get time for his guys. So he definitely has better facilities and better opportunities here. So he'll need to do things a little bit differently, and he'll want to do things a little bit differently. And I hope that includes opportunities for fans to see this team in the summer. They get to know them. not the coaches, the players. There's a lot that's new about this team. And that's something that I really appreciated about Jared Calhoun last year, is he recognized that there were a lot of new players for his squad too. And he wanted people to get excited about the upcoming season. And it worked. Everybody was excited. Everybody was hyped. And turned out to be, a lot of sellouts for Utah State basketball, full arenas. And it started with those open practices in the summer. He wanted to provide opportunities to let folks get to know his team. And I hope Ben Jacobson does something similar. I'm not saying it has to be exactly the same, but those are great opportunities for the fan base because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And I know there's a number of people that are not too excited about how this roster looks to this date. But seeing them in practice and like, oh, okay, that guy can play. Like maybe I wasn't so high on him, but look how he plays among these other dudes. We'll be okay.
Yeah. 1818 saying Barrett Pierce said with Sky today that USU is kicking around the idea of holding on to those 2 final spots for the 5-for-5 ruling. Also said that Jacobson wanted regional/local players. So that makes sense to what we've seen. Like, yeah, they've stacked up. So like Jax Allen, local. Mason, well, he's obviously local. Sean Feltz, Ace Reiser, Bron Roberts. So like, how many was that? Bunch of local guys.
That's a good number.
Obviously, guys who already have ties with the program. So that's Kingston, Carson, Mason, and Braden. Like they're bringing in guys who have ties. At least half of these recruits are guys with local ties, especially Utah ties.
And then there's another number of guys who have ties to the coach and the coaching staff.
Yeah.
So that's
with Jordan Boyd and Will Hornseth. So like
easier to build that loyalty and connection as a roster and as a team.
Yeah. So, so we ended up going a little bit longer on talking about the roster. Why don't we go ahead and hit a quick break? And because I want to get a clean transition into talking about the Utah Mammoth.
You want awkward transitions?
No, I don't do awkward transitions. I never do.
We're about formal
awkward transitions
and prompt transitions.
Smooth transitions.
Big game tonight. Playoffs are back.
Playoffs
are back at Delta Center.
The Delta Center. Also,
and heard here on the Fan.
Yeah, and heard here on the Fan. Also, they did a fun little. It's almost a jab at Vegas where they did jersey swaps, or like you can go swap in a jersey and get a free Mammoth one, but not necessarily swapping in a Mammoth jersey. A different franchise jersey.
Yeah, really clever promotion to get folks excited for the return of the playoffs.
So we'll talk about that next here on the Full Court Press. Mountain Valley Heating and Air is offering $25 carbon monoxide home safety inspections. And if you sign up for one of those, as you make your family safer, every dollar will help more families in need receive a complete HVAC system for free during the Feel the Love Heating and Air Conditioning giveaway. So go to mtnvalleyhvac.com. That's mtnvalleyhvac.com. to nominate a family to receive one of these HVAC systems and schedule your safety inspection.
Jason, I don't mean to alarm you, but earlier today,
What did you do?
Utah Mammoth on their own social media channels said the Delta Center is the place to be tonight.
Yeah.
I don't mean to alarm you. This is kind of a big deal for some people. But they did say the Delta Center.
They did, as they should. Use those articles. Ryan Smith also says the Delta Center.
But their broadcast people, like, they only say Delta Center.
Because they're told to do that because that's supposed to be the branding. But anyone who actually and you can tell every time.
So why do the broadcast people follow the branding, but no one else does?
Because they're paid to follow the branding.
Well, you think the owner would too? It's his building.
If you paid me to call it Full Court Press instead of the Full Court Press, I would do it. I have a price and I can be bought. But if you leave me to my own devices, then I'm going to
now refer to me as King Eric Frandsen.
You're not paying me enough to call you that. So let's talk about the Mammoth, though, as they're taking on the Vegas Golden Knights, which apparently they're not the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They're just the Vegas Golden Knights, I believe. I've had to learn their branding as well. But one interesting thing about this series, aside from the fact that it's already getting spicy, which I'm loving, and in a mostly like not toxic way, like
physical. Game one, Vegas is very familiar with the playoffs. They've been in the Stanley Cup playoffs a lot. They've won the whole thing.
Yeah, even as a young franchise, they're still experienced.
And they realize Utah's got a young team. They haven't experienced the playoffs, so we're going to smack them around. Like, they went after them in game one. And bodies on the ice, against the glass, all over the place. Vegas let them feel it. And it kind of affected Utah. I mean, they were able to withstand it for two periods, but in that third, it kind of got to them, and Vegas pulls away. Game two, different story. At the end of game one, it's spicy. Guys are like, "I'm gonna kill you," when they're going off the ice. Like, okay, we got a series. But game two was very different. Utah was ready for it. They dished it out a little bit on their own, steal a game on the road. So it always makes a spicy series when a team steals a game on the road. And so now game three tonight in Salt Lake City, we're only a few games into this, and it's already like exciting, which is awesome. Throw in the fact there's a regional aspect of it, and this promotion that the Mammoth are doing today, where it's at Delta Center, right? Where you have to go to do this. It's not at some other venue.
Not going to answer that question until you say it right.
So you show up, like, 'cause for several years, like, the closest you had to choose. Like, were you an Avalanche fan? Because there were some who were here. Like, that was your really only closest option.
But you can't be rooting for Colorado teams because there's a whole Rocky Mountain rivalry. You can't be going to the Avalanche.
It was kind of tough. And so when Vegas opened up, there were a lot of folks in Utah like, okay, I'm going to go with this team out of Las Vegas, and they're geographically close, easy to get to. And so Vegas was growing a fan base in Utah. Well, then 2 years ago, Utah was able to get their own team. And interestingly enough, 2 years ago today, Jason Walker, they were doing a party introducing the Utah Hockey Club to the state of Utah. And 2 years later, they're hosting a first-round NHL Stanley Cup playoff game. It's insane how much has happened in 2 years.
Yeah.
So now the Ryan Smith and his ownership group were like, hey, you know what? We know there were some Vegas Golden Knight fans here before we arrived and got things going. But since we're here and we're becoming your new team, bring your old Vegas Golden Knights gear and we'll swap it out with some new Mammoth stuff.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And it takes a fun little shot at Vegas just being like, hey, they're abandoning you. Because Vegas sports teams they try to push into Utah. The Raiders are here all the time trying to take over Utah and like get fans from from Utah to be Raiders fans since there's no NFL team here. And I think the Golden Knights were doing something similar, not quite to the same extreme, but still, like Utah was their territory. It's not anymore.
Not anymore.
It's not theirs. And it was fun seeing some of the Vegas Golden Knights fans trying to come up with reasons to make fun of Utah for doing it. The only one that I saw was like there were some people who were bringing in like, knockoff jerseys, like obviously, like they look like the replica jerseys, but you buy them from China. And it's like, oh, you turned in a $30 jersey for a Utah Mammoth jersey. And it's like, okay. That just means Ryan Smith is being more generous with his fans, giving them free Mammoth jerseys, good quality Mammoth jerseys in exchange for turning in your Vegas fandom to root for the hometown team now.
Yeah, they gave out different playoff-themed swag like hockey pucks and a few other things. Over 1,000 people showed up when they started this. It was started on the plaza. It went past the plaza and down the street. And people were waiting in line for a long time. And they all had Vegas Golden Knights gear, getting rid of it in exchange for Utah Mammoth stuff.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy because like I would have imagined. And this is where like Utah Mammoth are obviously more well-informed and connected with their fan base than I am. But I would have thought it was kind of a niche thing where it's like, okay, sure, there are Vegas fans here, but like how many of them are Vegas fans living in Utah that are also converting to being Mammoth fans? Apparently the answer was a lot of fans. Like there are a lot of NHL fans who clung to Vegas and had jerseys for Vegas, and they're fans who are willing to pay that much money for a jersey because those things are expensive.
Yeah, like I've seen pictures of people turning in their Vegas Golden Knights stuff that has the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, the 2023
trophy
Stanley Cup
of the 2023 season, and they're like, nope, I'm done with this. Yeah. I want to go over Utah Mammoth. So it's awesome. I don't know what they're going to do with all this gear that they accumulate. Do they send it to their friends in Las Vegas and say, here, you can distribute this among your partners? Yeah. I don't know what they send it to, poor people in Thailand or Africa. Yeah, I don't know what they do with this stuff, but it's a pretty clever promotion, and apparently a lot of people jumped on the opportunity to get some new gear. Yeah,
it's really solid. Those 6391 saying, I also know a few people that were never Vegas fans, but found jerseys on Facebook to trade in. So some enterprising Mammoth fans.
Hey, okay. You know what? I applaud the hustle.
Yeah.
We'll get some new fresh gear supporting the Utah Mammoth.
6391 also following up saying they, and I presume talking about the Mammoth organization, saying they said they are donating the jerseys to Vegas area charities.
Okay.
Which is,
there you go. That makes sense.
Like, I know there's some fans that were saying, mostly tongue in cheek, I don't think they were deadly serious about this, but saying, start a bonfire, burn them all, and it's like, that's not the most economical way or environmentally friendly way to dispose of a bunch of jerseys.
Sticking it in the eye of
that's where it's
Vegas
like we're trading in our fandom, but we can send all those jerseys back to charities.
Yeah, if you donate them to boys and girls clubs or local food pantries and other shelters, then those people are going to appreciate it.
Yeah, especially because they're going to be Vegas Golden Knights fans.
They're going to be in the area. Yeah, so it's a win-win.
And you end up growing the game of hockey because you give someone who maybe can't afford a jersey, give them a Vegas Golden Knights jersey. Yeah. You grow the game. Maybe it's not your team, but it grows the game.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's something you want to see.
Build your base.
So looking at the game tonight, this is one that I'll be honest, I'm nervous about. Because Vegas is coming off kind of a bit of a stinging loss. And it's not like that bad, but still, you split at home, something you're never wanting to do. Yet, the game was tied for a lot of that game. Could have had a chance to go up 2-0, take that commanding 2-0 lead that's just really hard to overcome. Instead, Utah has, essentially, as I say, stolen home court advantage or home ice for this series. So I really think Utah, and this is where playoff experience can come into play. Like, are we going to see Vegas's playoff experience come into play, or are we going to see Utah overcome maybe its own inexperience, mentally lock in? Because this is the kind of game that can turn the series one way or the other. If the Mammoth lose, it's not that big a deal, but then pressure comes back on for that game 4. It becomes, it feels like as much of a kind of again, not a literal must win, but that game 2 felt like a bit of a must win where you definitely don't want to go down 2-0 as a young team, and you definitely don't want to go down 3-1. And so you don't want to put that pressure on you in game 4 by losing game 3.
Yeah.
So like the feeling of the series would, I mean, even if you still end up splitting these games, like it feels like this game 3 is where the Mammoth can really show, hey, we may be young, but we know what's up. We know that we can hang with teams in the playoffs, even as 21, 22-year-olds. So I really want to see Utah come out and play at a high level. You're at home, especially where it's your first ever home playoff game. This is the one where the Mammoth really need to be coming out. Like if they win this game but then lose game 4, like that's okay. But like you're doing it the other way, I don't know. It just feels like game 3 just becomes weirdly important in this series, just in terms of the mental aspect of all this, not necessarily the logistics of, winning game 1 and all the math behind winning game 3 or game 4 or whatnot. It's just for the mentality of the Utah Mammoth and for delivering something to the fan base. That's what makes this game 3 feel, again, weirdly important.
Yeah, I agree. It is important. It's not in the must-win territory, but this is a Utah Mammoth team that they were playing from ahead in a really good chunk of game 1 and certainly in what they did in game 2. Like they have proven they're not intimidated by the Golden Knights. They can skate with these guys. They can play really well. And we knew that this was going to be a pretty evenly matched series anyway. And Utah has shown, yes, there's a lot of similarities between these two clubs. The thing that'll be interesting to watch tonight is there will be a lot of hype. There'll be a lot of energy early on. Like, how well do they sustain it? Can Vegas withstand the just the magnitude of energy in the arena in the first period and a half, maybe the first 2 periods? If they can withstand that and hang in there and keep it close, then their experience might help get them through the third. For Utah, don't get too overhyped. I know it's exciting having the playoff experience and having your first playoff on your home ice, but you got to be careful about not getting too far extended and then you just run out of gas when you need it most. So that'll be, I think, the most interesting thing for me to watch is where are these 2 teams at when we get to the third period? Like how much energy do they still have, and will that hype, will that excitement still be there to push the Mammoth through to get in a series lead after the game tonight? Yeah,
that would be absolutely math. It would be Mammoth, as you might say.
Yes.
By the way, on the YouTube chat, Eric Walker 927, who I do believe is
welcome to the Walker clan.
Yeah, saying, "I'm going to boycott this show if you keep calling it Delta Center, Eric. You know better than to kowtow to that nonsense."
I look it up, and what's its name? Delta Center.
You can call it the Delta Center. You can call it the Delta Center. This is the full court press.
Where do the New York Knicks play? Madison Square Garden. Not the Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, but if you say, going, I don't know.
Where do the Lakers play? Staples Center.
Sometimes I'll
say
I
guess it's not Staples Center anymore.
It's Crypto.com Arena. I don't know. It just makes more sense.
Why do we use the for some arenas and not for others?
Because it sounds better and it doesn't sound awkward. Like, just use it in a sentence. Like, ask 100 people, say, is it the Delta Center? Like, they have to put the in front of it. If you have to teach yourself to say it a particular way, it means you're doing it wrong.
Am I, or am I doing it right? You've all been doing it wrong forever.
No, it means you.
I'm just trying to.
It means you've branded it improperly.
Get us back online.
Don't try. It's like when all these companies in the 90s were, using Z's instead of S's, and using K's instead of C's. Like, if you have to teach people every time the name of your business. I used to remember listening to the radio, Southtown Auto Mall. Don't forget the E on town. Yeah, you've done it wrong. I know town with an E is an old English spelling or something to that effect. Yes. Like, it's not like they randomly did that, but like, okay, you got to realize what branding is. Like, If your business is called Cool Cash, maybe spell it with C so that people don't misspell it when they search for it on the internet.
Yes, there are a lot of marketing pitfalls that you got to avoid. But
6391 also pointing out something I pointed out earlier as well, saying even Ryan Smith has come around and says the Delta Center now. Come on, Eric.
By the way, the game is at 7:30 tonight.
Yeah.
On TBS for those who want to watch. So we will have pregame here on the Fan starting at 7 with their great studio crew. Adrian Denny's friend of the program, Mike Volta. They do a great job previewing the matchups and getting you ready for what will happen on the ice. So stay tuned. 7 o'clock tonight here on the Fan.
Yeah. And 2603, this is something that I wanted to mention. I can't remember if I put it on the show topic, but it's something I definitely wanted to mention. But 2603 saying, quick plug for the USU men's tennis team.
Oh, yes.
Hopefully they get to win this afternoon. Yeah,
they're scoring off with UNLV.
Boise State.
Oh, Boise State.
It was the women's team that played UNLV the other night, and I believe they lost.
And if Utah State wins, it is their 9th conference championship this season.
Yeah.
And I think BYU set the record for 9 before they left. I think that's like the high water mark for a school to win championships in the Mountain West.
By the way, 6391 saying, way to hurry and change the subject once you're back into a corner, Eric. But we have been criminally underrepresenting the men's tennis team for the season they've been having.
Oh, phenomenal.
One of their highest,
fantastic.
Their highest ranking in the, I can never remember the organization that does the tennis rankings, but they were like, I think up to 68. It was their highest ranking since 2018. Another year where they won the Mountain West Championship. And yeah, they won the regular season title. They beat Boise State to win the outright title. They beat them 4-2, I think 2 weeks ago. And then they've made their way through the Mountain West tournament, and they face off against Boise State, who actually might be higher ranked. I can't remember if they were higher ranked. Boise's ranked similarly, maybe slightly higher, maybe slightly lower.
They beat Boise State in the regular season.
Yeah, they beat them in the regular
conference.
season. Yeah. They beat them, and I think was their regular season finale or their second to last.
Yes.
So they won that, and because they'd clinched a share of the title, and that win I believe gave them it outright, or maybe it was the game. I don't know what I'm supposed to call a meeting of these two teams, because game, match, I don't know. They play games within matches within the meetings of the two teams. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to call that meetup.
They square off today, 5 o'clock Pacific, so it's still 30 minutes away.
Yeah, basically
in Las Vegas.
Yeah, when we sign off, then they'll be getting going pretty much.
Yeah,
they'll start with the doubles points.
Men's tennis tournament championship, Utah State versus Boise State. Utah State the number 1 seed.
Yep.
Boise State the number 3 seed, and yeah, you can watch it on PlaySite, I guess, is the online platform to keep an eye on.
It's not on like the Mountain West Network?
I guess.
That's weird.
I don't know.
Thought that was the point of the Mountain West Network. Was to stream stuff like this.
Their streaming partner for
maybe they outsource it
tennis.
to them.
Yeah.
Partly because tennis can be a pretty tricky sport to be televising essentially or streaming.
Yeah, you get multiple courts.
Yeah, you gotta have like the 4 screens because they'll be playing like 3 matches at once usually or something like that.
So yeah, best of luck to men's tennis. Thank you on the text line, getting us dialed in to let us know about what's going on there. It's been a fantastic season for Utah State athletics in their final year in the Mountain West. Just hoarding all the trophies on their way out the door.
Basically 6391 with a great point saying it'd be easier to name the sports that USU didn't win the Mountain West title this year.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it is. We'll take a break and then I'll do some of the counting off air. Like I'll count the sports that Utah State plays and the percentage of them that won a title.
Yeah, we'll give shout outs to those teams which have won championship hardware so far this year.
So we'll get to that next here on the Full Court Press.
Birdie's Golf Lounge, 650 North, 870 West in Logan. They've got their early birdie pricing only available for a few more days through April 30th. $129 a month with no monthly contract. After that, usually it's $259 a month. So big savings if you join now. You can do memberships, you can do hourly, public bookings available, and there's leagues and competitions. You can do it on a local level. You can even compete on a national level. It's an indoor area where you can improve your golf game with AI swing coach system, the latest technology to improve your game. It's at Birdie's Golf Lounge, 650 North, 870 West in Logan.
5338 on the Young Power Sports Logan text line saying hockey and tennis in the same segment. This must be the best full court press episode ever. That is probably also the only time you've ever mentioned hockey and tennis in the same segment. We don't get enough time. We don't usually talk about tennis much, but men's tennis has been on a pretty solid 2-3 year run with some of the players they've been recruiting and the things they've been accomplishing. On the YouTube chat, Braden Clark helping us out. I knew he'd looked this up earlier because I'd seen him tweeting about this. But as far as like the number of championships won, the most won by a program within the Mountain West, Braden Clark noting that BYU won 9 in the 2000-2001 season, which was, I think, the second year ever, and then 14 in 06-07.
Oh, wow.
It's absurd. Utah has 14 scholarship sports.
Oof, that's a lot.
So if Utah
probably
State,
not going to match that.
Yeah, so if Utah State, well, they literally can't at this point. There's only so many sports left.
Yeah.
But they would tie for second, as Braden says. So if the men's tennis team wins tonight.
So regular season and tournament championships to date for Utah State this season. Men's tennis, because they won the regular season. And we're going to see if they win the tournament as well. Men's basketball, which won both. You got gymnastics. Of course, they've included basketball in there as regular season, but they also included them with tournament.
Yeah, these are Mountain West championships. There's multiple Mountain West championships that can be won. Like there are potentially 3 different Aggie sports that could win 2 trophies apiece.
Gymnastics did the same. They won the regular season. They also won
and
the tournament,
the championship meet.
You've got volleyball, which also did the same, regular season and tournament, and soccer, if I'm reading this right.
Yeah, I think you are right. So, like, the thing is, I think in the end of the 14 scholarship sports, I think 5 or 6 will have won a title. So, technically less than half, I guess, but still 9 trophies. Yeah, that's hard to do. Nobody else has been doing it.
Just by sport, then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you look at it like each time a trophy is awarded, then you get to 8.
Yeah, Utah State's
with
really
the 9th potentially tonight.
Yeah, Utah State's really starting to take them home,
stack them up,
and not stacking them up with like cross country and track and field by getting like 4 of them between men's and women's cross country, track and field, all that.
Yeah, as a team.
That's probably where BYU is doing stuff because they have a pretty good track team.
Yes.
Of course, that's where New Mexico, they get a lot of trophies because they have a really good track and field team.
Right, they've got an elite track team.
So, I want to get to this text real quick. Takes us back a little bit. But 2114 saying, didn't get a chance to chime in the day JD was on the show. He was worried about hype for the season. There'll be a ton of hype surrounding the local legend Mason Falslev's final season and crowd favorite Carson Templin. People won't want to miss that. Add to the fact that we kept 2 of the vaunted freshmen last year and the intrigue of how they play this year, along with the new coach and new system looks. With the others he's brought in the end, winning trumps all, always has. Win and everyone will be on board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
winning is the secret sauce.
Yeah. And that's something that all the new coaches, like, it seems like every single time, like Craig Smith, Ryan Odom. Well, I don't think Ryan Odom because he had a bit of a rough first year, but like they all end up like setting some kind of record or tying some record for like best start to the season, like in best start for a first year coach. Like they all seem to do that like their first year, despite the fact they're having to constantly one up each other.
Yeah.
So we'll see how Ben Jacobson is able to handle this season, and if he can maintain the hype and also the got to sell out all the tickets and stuff, and especially with the controversy over moving the student section, you got to sell those seats. They're the more expensive seat. Got to make sure you actually sell them.
Yes.
And
you better fill those up.
Yeah, and they need the hype to make sure that those seats get filled.
Yeah, Mason and Carson, retaining some of your top players, that is hype. There's reason to be excited about that. Now, there's uncertainty about some of the other players that are coming in. I get that. I mean, sure, but this roster's not done yet. So, but just keeping Mason, keeping Carson, keeping two of the freshmen in the best freshman class Utah State's ever had. Those alone are reasons to get excited about this basketball team.
Yeah. Jumping back, talking about Utah State winning all these Mountain West titles, 1818 saying Cam Walker has got himself quite the resume already, although not his doing. He does get to use it on his resume. Yeah, he's walked into a lot of these trophies, and I think some of them were won before he even got here. Well, when did he get here?
No, he's been here for the full academic year.
Okay, I couldn't remember exactly when he got here, so I guess. But yeah, he kind of walked into some of these.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, he does get to use it on his resume. These are he gets to hold all those trophies too.
Yeah, well, and as an athletic director, like he's setting a tone with other coaches and their support staff. Like, this is the expectation here. This is what we want to do. This is what we can do to help you get there. So yes, he didn't actually do the coaching and he wasn't on the field of play to make these things happen. But
I would hope he's not the one coaching or on the field of play.
But the athletic director sets the tone and then provides the resources. And that's something that he's doing. And people are excited about having him and his staff in those offices. And it's, man, what a difference it's made just in the general feel about athletics at Utah State since he walked through that door.
Yeah. 8968 saying, for money available and money spent, Utah State's record of the Mountain West is as good as any school's. Yeah.
Yes.
Especially this year for usually
Very
being
true.
middling in terms of money spent. Utah State has gotten the most bang for their buck out of potentially any school in the whole country.
Yes.
For how many conference titles they're winning and in the success and getting to the NCAA tournament in a bunch of these different sports. They're getting a lot for their money, and now they're starting to raise more money.
Yes, they are.
So maybe that might have some people scared of what happens if you give Utah State, the team that's been the best, the program that's been the best at making the most out of every dollar. If you start giving them a little bit more money, I don't know, things could get tricky.
Yeah,
for everyone else.
Yeah. Yes.
So, I had the topic. The Pac-12. We never got around to this. The Pac-12 bowl tie-ins. We want to hit on this real quick before we take another break.
Yeah, some interesting announcements about bowl tie-ins for this upcoming season. Some new bowls announced. The Puerto Rico Bowl.
Wasn't there a bowl that's coming back?
Well, yes. So there's the Puerto Rico Bowl, which is new.
Yeah. Which
will be first college football game ever played in Puerto Rico. So that's new. That's kind of exciting. But where that actually will be played is not yet known, so that's a little weird.
Yeah.
But then a bowl that was a long mainstay went away, but has come back, and that's the Poinsettia Bowl, which will be interesting for folks around here because it will feature the Pac-12 champion versus the Mountain West champion.
That's great.
At least if neither one of those are involved in the college football playoff.
I guess that's true. But I need Mountain West versus Pac-12. Mind you, I'm already going to I can't quit the Mountain West. I know in a lot of our coverage, we're starting to shift away from the Mountain West. And every time I see something in the Mountain West, we should talk about this on the show. And I'm like, well, we're kind of focusing on the Pac-12. But personally, I know I'm still going to be watching a lot of Mountain West football, a lot of Mountain West basketball.
Yes.
And seeing a bowl game, imagine Utah State playing New Mexico in the Poinsettia Bowl.
Yeah, in San Diego. So it'll still be in San Diego, which is exciting. There's some other weird things, too, with bowls. A lot of the, what we will call legacy Pac-12 teams who are no longer in the Pac-12, they are still tied to Pac-12 bowls, even though the new Pac-12 teams will not be tied to those same bowls, which is still kind of weird. But Cal, Stanford, Arizona State, Utah, et cetera,
Yeah.
They will play in these Pac-12 bowls, even though they are not part of the Pac-12 anymore. And it's still not real sure outside of the Poinsettia Bowl what bowl tie-ins the new Pac-12 will have. So it's still kind of wonky. They're still trying to work through that a little bit. There's the Frisco Bowl the Xbox Bowl in Frisco, Texas.
Yeah, one of the 2 bowls they play in Frisco, Texas. Still don't know how Frisco managed to pull that off.
Yeah, they kind of came in after the dying or the problematic Bahamas Bowl went away. So they kind of came in and filled it. But bottom line, there's going to be 41 bowls. So 82 available teams. There will be Pac-12 affiliations somehow, but we don't quite know what those are. A lot of these Pac-12 bowl arrangements are kind of on hold for extended periods of time, contracts with other conferences, because they're waiting to see if the college football playoff will expand. And if it does expand, that will certainly affect all these other bowls and how they connect with that. So there will be a lot of change in after next year. But right now, as it stands, there's only really one bowl tie-in for the Pac-12. But there will be others that they've got to fill them somehow, and the Pac-12 will produce bowl-eligible teams. So that's still a little bit to be determined, but I would imagine it will have some shades of what we saw out of the Mountain West. There'll be a lot of similarities as well.
Yeah.
So, imagine the Humanitarian Bowl is going to have some connection to the Pac-12 since its venue is a Pac-12 school.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But, and we'll see how bowl season goes. Of course, we'll look forward to another edition of Bowl Basketball or Bogus
yes.
when it comes around. But we've got to take a break. When we come back, we'll have the return of Pick Six. We kind of sort of talked about this yesterday. We had to push it because I forgot to make my lines. But we have them. We have them right now. I've got my lines. They're right here. Eric probably has his.
They are written in ink.
There we go. We'll get to that next here on the Full Court Press. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen. As wrapping up the show here, we got one last bit to cover here, and that's Pick Six.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way.
It's the Full Court Press Pick Six.
Ever since March Madness ended, I am so bored.
6 things we think will happen this weekend.
I don't know how the whole betting thing started, but it's fun.
That clip about March Madness is fitting this time of year.
Yes, it's true.
Of course, it's almost a relief just where it's not as busy traveling around the country and all that stuff, or traveling the western U.S. as I did this year. But, Eric, you are, I believe, on a 2-week win streak at the very least.
Let's go.
In Pick 6, and that means you won last week, obviously, which means you get to pick who goes first.
I'm going to defer. I'm going to let you go first.
All right, so here are my lines. I got 3 lines. Eric has his 3 lines plus a tiebreaker. Nikola Jokic, he had a pretty rough game last time. Rudy Gobert's stock is rising with how he's defended Jokic, the 3-time MVP. But game 3 on Saturday, Jokic may be aiming for revenge. How many combined points, rebounds, and assists does he have on Saturday against the Timberwolves? I set the line at 38.5.
Ooh. I was adding it up in my mind as you were getting ready to say the number, and that was awfully close to what I had. I'm going to take the over.
I'll take the under.
Okay.
I'll believe in Gobert. Logan Cooley, how many points will he have against Vegas tonight? He's had a point in each of the first 2 games, so I set the line at 0.5.
Ooh, I'll take the under.
All right. I will take the over. I will believe in
Okay.
Logan Cooley.
All right.
And then Utah State tennis. They're taking on Boise State. How many sets do they win against the Broncos in the Mountain West tournament title game? I set the line at 4.5. Well, sets is like the points, like the matches. There's a total of, I think, 7. But how many of those do they win? They need 4 to win.
They need 4 to win. Yeah. I'm gonna take the under.
All right. I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna believe.
All right. I like that.
in
Good
Utah
for
State.
you. Good for you. Okay. Big series this weekend, Jason. Chicago Cubs and the LA Dodgers.
Yes, the one everyone's been waiting for.
These are 2 good teams right now, and big rosters, big cities. So it's going to be Saturday on Fox, 5 o'clock on Fox. Well, it's a 3-game series, but their Saturday game is going to be featured. Colin Rea, the pitcher for Chicago, strikeouts on Saturday, 4.5.
I will go under.
Okay, I'm going to take the over. Sam Merrill, points for the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 4, 7.5.
I'll go. I'm going to go under.
I'm going to go over. And then Kimi Antonelli in the Miami Grand Prix. F1 has taken a little bit of a break. They had some races
It's been a long break
in the Middle East, and there's some tension right there, so they had to cancel a couple races. So F1 returns this weekend in Miami. Kimi Antonelli's been off to a pretty good start this year. Where he finishes this weekend, I got it at 3.5. So if you say under, it means he's either first, second, or third. If you say over, that's fourth or lower.
I'm going to say over.
I'm going to take the under.
Not a huge believer in Kimi Antonelli.
He's doing well so far.
So far.
So far. Okay, and our tiebreaker. I'm going to go back to Utah Mammoth versus Las Vegas, or the Vegas Golden Knights tonight, Game 3. Shots against Vegas for, you already did a Logan Cooley stat, so I'm going to use Dylan Gunther in this one. So Dylan Gunther shots against Vegas in Game 3, 4.5.
I'll take the under.
I'll take the over.
All right. That's pick 6. So we'll tally it up on Monday. We'll see who ends up being the winner.
That's right. Do I have momentum on my side?
Have you ever gone 3 in a row against me?
If it was a while ago.
I've had multiple streaks in the double. Well, I think only one reached double digits. I've had multiple of like 7+.
Yes, it's not as easy for me to beat you as it was to beat Ajay.
I think I have like a 70 winning percentage against you,
Yes.
which is about what you had against Ajay, or probably better than that.
Better than that.
We've gone back and forth plenty of times, though. So,
Yes.
Thanks so much to everyone who listened in today. Glad to have you on the show. A lot of fun, a lot of chat on the YouTube chat where we've added that along with our text line, our Young Power Sports of Logan text line. So glad to have a chance to talk with all of you guys, talk Aggie basketball. We got to take a bit of a break for the weekend. We'll see if they add any more commits. I don't know if it's going to slow down where they've only got 2 spots left, and maybe they're going to hold out, see what happens with that 5 and 5.
And the ruling on that, the decision on that will be in May, so it's coming up soon.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be able to take effect until June, but how many other teams are doing something similar? Like, we're going to hold off and leave a roster spot or two open just in case. So there's going to be a lot of college basketball players in limbo until that's decided.
Yeah, that'll make things pretty awkward for a lot of people, but we'll get it figured out by the end of summer. And when teams get into camp, they'll have their rosters ready. So until then, and I guess until Monday, we'll talk to you guys later. Make sure to tune in on Monday to the Full Court Press on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.